what is your outcome goal and what's going to be the process to get there. So most people only do one part of the equation, and they wonder why they don't achieve the desired outcome. So if you say, this year, my New Year's resolution is to get fit, well, what does that mean? Your brain doesn't really know what that means. Your brain doesn't know if it means losing a pound. It doesn't know if it means gaining 10 pounds of muscle. So you have to get really, really clear on what specifically you want to achieve for
mental health, emotional health, physical health, deeper understanding, actionable takeaways to improve your quality of life. We're the Level Up guys.
Even guys can have emotionally literate conversations, and we're the guys that are going to prove it.
We're back, hey everyone. We are the Level Up guys. My name is Billy. I'm here with my best friend Jarrett. Very special guest today, Steve Lutsk. You probably know him on social media as DadBodSteve. Super popular, has awesome information. So this is Steve. DadBodSteve. So you run an online coaching program, right? Dadbod Solutions, and is primarily focused to what? Dudes like me, ages like 30, 35, older, to get fit, strong. So first off, what is a dad bod? And I'm sure, Jarrett, there's probably like some psychological thing where actually when you're a dad and there's a pregnancy happening, you have some sort of like empathetic weight gain or something like, but how do, maybe Jarrett, you can answer, and Steve, you can answer first. Like, what's a dad bod societally? Like, what are we looking at?
You want to just, should I just stand up? Is that what you're at?
Yeah.
That bit of belly, right?
We'll just get a picture of Jared on there. I'm just kidding. So dad bod, it is subjective, but it's more about a state of mind. It is, you have new responsibilities. Maybe you have a family, you're working more hours, your priority shifted. And when your priority shifted, you stopped taking care of yourself. So you put on an extra 10, 20, 30 pounds or more because you started drinking fewer protein shakes and more alcoholic beverages. You stopped doing push-ups and started watching more Netflix. And doesn't happen overnight, but over the course of a few months or even a few years, next thing you know, you look in the mirror and your body has changed, usually not for the better. And that is the definition of a dad bod.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that. Jarrett's a dad. I'm not a dad. But it seems to, like you implied, that people were already doing push-ups to begin with, right? Why do you think it's so hard? I think some studies said that like 22% of Americans get the required amount of exercise per week. And I know for me, I have a studio where people come in person. You do, the online what's the key ingredient or the top three of things that are missing for people to actually start in the first place,
Yeah, that's a great question. And yeah, there's some crazy stats too. 22% of people get the exercise they need. It may even be less. 70% of Americans are either overweight or obese, which is crazy. And I think the key component that most guys are missing is really looking in the mirror and having a strong vision and a strong why. What's your reason to want to do it? A lot of guys live in the moment. They don't really think about what the consequences are going to be a year down the line, 10 years down the line, 30 years down the line. So the first step is really, it's like any problem. The first step is admitting that you have a problem. So not lying to yourself and telling you that it's not that bad, but really, really taking an honest look and saying, all right, if I don't do anything about this in the future, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. And it's not just about aesthetics. It's nothing to do with that. It's about longevity and having a higher quality of life and hooking up your future self and realizing that the actions that we have today are really going to impact not just us in the future, but everyone around us in the future. And once you realize that, you're going to be a lot more inclined to take action and start changing your habits and prioritizing your health and your body and making working out and eating right a part of your everyday life.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we talk about a lot on this podcast is how can we take an honest look at ourselves? And this is what, this is just another way that people can do that. And I imagine you would agree with this, like not for the sake of getting stuck in a shame spiral, but like as you said, like, what can my vision be towards better health, mental health, emotional, physical, but or whatever. So we have a sense of your target demographic. Do you have any personal experiences you can speak to that like initially created your passion to help others in this way? I mean, you have awesome social media content. You have, over 300,000 followers on Instagram, over 200 and something thousand followers on Facebook. So clearly, your why, as you said, like there's something that motivates you to help people in this way. And could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, a couple things got me started, and the first was losing both of my grandfathers at a very young age due to heart disease. I lost my first grandfather when I was 8 years old. He was only in his 60s.
Mm.
And I lost my other grandfather when I was 10, maybe 11, also to heart disease. He was a little bit older, but it's in my family. And then on top of that, my dad had a heart attack a couple years ago. He survived it. I texted with him last night. He's fine. But it was really, really scary, and I hated what it did to my family. Part of it's genetic, but part of it is preventable. Neither of my grandfathers ever exercised a day in their life. That their diets weren't perfect, a little overweight. My dad's not big on exercising. His diet could be better. But the main point here is that there are aspects that are out of your control, but there are aspects that are in your control. And the aspects that are in your control can dramatically reduce the risk, extend the quality of your life. And when you're around and you're living at a high capacity, your family's really going to appreciate that. And then the other thing that got me started with this demographic specifically was when I reached my 30s. A lot of my friends across the country. So I'm from the Northeast. I live in California now. A lot of my friends are 3,000 miles away. They started getting families in their early 30s. They started gaining weight. They started getting out of shape. And they kept asking me advice. And it was a half a dozen, maybe more guys. All were kind of going through the same issues, had similar problems, similar challenges. And I realized, well, there are a lot of guys in this situation. I think I can help them out on a pretty large scale. So I started making all my messaging around helping those guys in that specific situation. So those are the
Yeah.
two main reasons: heart disease in my family and being able to help out my friends across the country.
I'm kind of hearing that, one of your whys, or your reasons why was to be a cycle breaker, right? Of this like generational thing in your
Yeah.
family of like, that idea of like, it ends with me, or at least it's not, not with me. And looking at what is within your control to, maybe the genetics are not, but all of the protective factors might be. So that's really admirable and understandable why you got into that. And then the other one really resonated with me because as a therapist, I often had friends asking, sharing with me and asking you know, um, for thoughts of how to navigate certain situations in their life. And it occurred to me that, oh, okay, so there's clearly something here that can be developed into even maybe a more useful and honed tool. And it sounds like that was kind of the case for you with your friends as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure you had friends from the Boston area reaching out to you and had similar problems, and it's cool that you were able to help them as well.
Steve, we talk a lot on the podcast about like nervous system regulation, whether it's
Yeah.
through like breathing exercises or yoga or exercise, swimming, whatever it is. I'd like to know in your own personal like workout routine and daily routine, like how that manifests into a better state of mind, quality of
Yeah.
mind, happiness from the neck up.
So one of the big misconceptions is that when guys work with me, all I'm going to do is give them like a calorie target and a protein target and get them some kick-ass workouts. And yeah, they get all that, but I do take a holistic approach, and nervous system is so important. It's one of the things that I talk about all the time, not just in my content, but with my clients. And because my nervous system is all over the place. And I figured that out and I realized I had to do something about it. So basically what it comes down to is this: we are attached to this thing all day, every day. We have so much stimulation. We're overly stimulated. We're dealing with a level of stimulation that no one had to deal with even 50 years ago. You know, we have messages going off, emails all the time. We got news coming in constantly, social media getting us in an elevated state. We wake up to 7 different text messages from people who need us. We got to put out fires at work. All this to say, in addition to there being an epidemic with people being overweight and obese, people are underslept, they're overstressed, and all of these things tie into one another. So that being said, yeah, you do have to take active steps to get out of that perpetual sympathetic state. Too many guys spend way too much time in that fight or flight response, and that could cause you to eat more directly, and it could also cause you to sleep less, which can also cause you to eat more, and wreaks havoc on your overall body composition. All this to say, there are some great tools, and you do have to make a conscious effort to wind down every single night. We used to be able to get into a parasympathetic state pretty easily, but now you have to, it's a skill set. So breathing exercises work the best for me. I'm a fan of a few different ones. I was doing meditation for a while, and I would use the Headspace app. That's great. But as I'm winding down, when I'm watching TV, I just take deep breaths in. And they say that the thing you should focus on is not just breathing in shallow through your chest, but actually making sure that your belly is rising, and that stimulates your vagus nerve and actually gets you into the parasympathetic state. And if you've had a long day, a stressful day, it could take 5 minutes, 10 minutes where you're doing that to get into that parasympathetic state. So you can actually get to sleep at a proper hour, get good quality sleep. You're not waking up multiple times in the middle of the night. And the other thing with that is too many guys rely on a medication to do that, which really shouldn't be doing unless you obviously really need it. But we shouldn't be relying on a Xanax or alcohol to wind down every single night, when all it takes is 5-10 minutes of focused effort on your breathing. That's going to make a huge difference in your overall quality of life.
That's one of the things that really vibed with me about your channel is you cover a lot of different bases to give people a lot of different information about a little bit about this and that and all the other, the bouquet of things we have to do to stay and get really healthy.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I'm a geek about all kinds of things, man.
You're speaking our language with sympathetic, parasympathetic breath work, stuff like that. So yeah. What do you see as so we recently released an episode about the difference between setting goals and setting intentions.
Yeah.
And I wonder, I love to kind of hear from your perspective, how do you interact with those two concepts, and how do you bring those to your clients in digestible ways?
Yeah.
What's your framework?
So I got really into self-development in my early 20s and read all the popular self-development books, Think and Grow Rich, Psycho-Cybernetics, all the classics. And what I realized is that they all kind of had one major thing in common. I hired coaches to help with my mindset and help with my business, and they all shared a pretty similar framework, and it was 100% built around that. What is your outcome goal, and what's going to be the process to get there? So most people only do one part of the equation, and then they wonder why they don't achieve the desired outcome. They set a goal, and a goal needs to fit a certain criteria. So first of all, it has to be measurable. Getting fit is really subjective. It's not really measurable. So if you say, this year, my New Year's resolution is to get fit. Well, what does that mean? Your brain doesn't really know what that means. Your brain doesn't know if it means losing a pound. It doesn't know if it means gaining 10 pounds of muscle. So you have to get really, really clear on what specifically that you want to achieve for that goal. So that's what I learned. Your goal needs to be measurable, quantifiable. The other component is that you have to set a time frame, a reasonable time frame. So if your goal is to lose 30 pounds, awesome goal. But if your time frame is I want to do it in a week, that's not realistic. But if your goal is I want to do it in 12 weeks, awesome. We have a target date and it's reasonable. It's aggressive, but reasonable. It's going to change your life. It's going to be awesome. So you got to be able to measure it. You need a specific date that you want to achieve it by, and it's got to excite you. It's got to be doable. All right, not too easy, not too difficult, kind of be in that sweet spot. That's all. That's awesome. But one other component to that. Sorry to cut you off. The other thing that guys miss is that you can't just set a goal like that. You do have to have an intention, or you have to focus on the process in order to get there. So you have to break it all down. So if it's going to be 30 pounds in 3 months, you have to break it down into chunks. That's 10 pounds per month. What do I have to do to lose a little over a pound per week? Because that can be, all right, let's get this on paper. It's going to be 4 workouts per week. I'm going to do those workouts on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. On the diet side of things, that's going to be all right. I'm going to figure out how many calories I need to consume, how much protein I need to consume. I'm going to get an app to track my food. I'm going to start doing that, or maybe you're going to use intermittent fasting. You need some way to control your calories. And then other things that you could measure that are going to be part of the process. Could be maybe your step count for the day. Maybe it's going to be you're going to commit to getting a minimum hours of sleep per night, or start prioritizing your sleep. And then on the intention side of things, it's going to be more along the lines of, is what I'm doing sustainable? I want to do this in a way where I'm enjoying it. It's challenging, but it's getting me closer to my goal. It requires effort, but it's not totally overhauling my life. So set the tangible goal, reverse engineer the process to get there, and always be willing to refine not just the process, but the goal itself, because that may change along the way. That's what I teach my clients in a nutshell. That's what was taught to me. That works not just for fitness, but other areas in your life as well. Maybe you have a business, similar concepts apply.
I think the concept of sustainability is really a big one, because you kind of have to find things you enjoy, you know? This is why I don't run. You know, if you see me running, you probably better run too. It's not my thing, you know? Like my back hurts and things, you know? However, I enjoy a really, really challenging, like a hot Pilates class, hot yoga class. I mean, I think there's a balance everyone needs to find between, yes, they really enjoy it, and there's a little bit of struggle along the way. I think transformation really involves some sort of a struggle of, you know, you have to power through it.
Yeah. Well, what's best on paper isn't always best for you. For instance, let's say a study comes out and they say that the fastest way to lose weight, this isn't true, but let's say hypothetically it happened. The fastest way to lose weight would be to do aqua aerobics. But maybe you hate aqua aerobics, you don't like it. Then even though it may be the fastest, maybe it's the most efficient, maybe it's the best thing in the world, but you hate it, well, it's only a short period of time before you stop doing it and it stops working it. So yeah, enjoying the process is an important part of it. It's going to be something that you can not just do in the temporary. All right, because weight loss, being in shape, being fit is a lifelong journey. It's going to be something that you can continue doing for the rest of your life indefinitely.
I can tell Jarrett's getting all pumped up. He's probably he's signing up for the gym right now.
Get it, man. That double biceps pose, make Arnold proud.
Right. So, okay. So I want to know, and, you know, I have some questions specific to me and my dad bod. And, you know, and also my habits that got me there. And I will fully accept you saying, you know, Jarrett, is more complicated than that, but I have a few questions. Mm-hmm. So what do you find, like, on nutrition labels are the things to pay attention to, and the things that, and maybe misconceptions about what people pay attention to and maybe don't, you know, aren't as important as these other things?
Yeah. Well, especially now, there's a lot of distractions out there. People like to vilify certain ingredients. I'm not a big fan of that. Is there value to it? Maybe in some cases, but the reason the country is overweight isn't because they're consuming a seed oil that magically causes them to gain weight, in the absence of a caloric surplus. So taking in more calories than you're burning. It's not, oh, you have sugar and it magically spikes your insulin and defies the laws of thermodynamics. It's the reason is not a food dye that, I don't know, maybe they don't allow it in other countries. Those are all kind of distractions. Is there anything wrong with some of those? Maybe, but not nearly as much as a lot of people will lead you to believe. So there's a lot of fear mongering. Why guys really gain weight is that the average American now consumes about 3,500 calories per day, which is a lot. That's going to put most guys into a caloric surplus, which is more calories than you need. When they should be focusing less on what they need to take out and prioritize more what they need to put back in. And I always say this. I say it's the great grandpa rule. What are the foods that your great grandparents would recognize at the grocery store? And that's going to be usually along the outer perimeter. You go to Ralph's, or you go to Shop and Save, or Shaw's, or Market Basket if you're in New England. Ralph's, Kroger out here in California.
Yeah.
You first walk in, you got the produce, your fruits, vegetables, leafy greens, things like that. You go over the butcher counter, got your meats, lean proteins, then you got maybe your dairy, your Greek yogurts, things like that. And then in the middle aisles, it's going to be your Pop-Tarts, your cookies. It's going to be all that junky stuff, that the cereal aisle, stuff that if your great grandparents saw it, they'd be like, what the heck is this? There's a lot of crap there. And the problem with this isn't the individual ingredients. It's usually not what's put in. It's not what is put into it. It's what's taken out. And a lot of those ultra processed foods, the main problem with them is that they are hyper palatable. They're delicious. They're easy to overconsume because there is either very little or no fiber. Fiber keeps you full. There's not a lot of nutritional value. A lot of it is empty calories, and there's not a lot of protein. Protein also helps keep you full. So all this to say, if more people prioritized foods that their great grandparents could recognize, prioritized protein and fiber with every single meal, you'd be able to control your calories a lot easier. Great grandparents didn't have to use an app to control your calories. So we have so many convenient options between DoorDash and Grubhub and Uber Eats. So much convenient stuff where it's really the overconsumption of calories. And on top of that, we mentioned that only about 20% of people are getting the amount of exercise that they need. That compounds the problem. We're not moving enough. We're eating too much. People like to blame a boogeyman. It's not the boogeyman. Start putting more protein, more fiber, more high quality, minimally processed foods into your diet. Focus on a step count. You don't have to do the most difficult HIIT class or CrossFit class in the world. A little bit of movement's going to go a long way. So the three main things you could add back into your life: protein, fiber, steps. You do that, you're going to solve a lot of problems.
So you just blew my mind about around the perimeter of the grocery store, right? Like I just am thinking about the Shaws that I go to, and I'm like, oh yeah, produce, right, is there, and then along the back there's like the seafood counter and the cheese, right, and another dairy, and even on as I kind of am in the dairy section, I turn around and there's the bread. It's on a shelf, right? It's not in thing, but like my grandparents would recognize bread, I feel like. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Right. And the bakery is also, now that I'm thinking about it, along that perimeter, right? So the reason it really did, surprise me to hear you say that. But the reason I particularly like it is because when I'm trying to achieve something, I like having rules. And so I could picture myself setting a rule saying, you're only allowed to shop around the perimeter of the grocery store, right? And
That's good.
yeah,
I would say, and you also have to give yourself some flexibility. And here's why. If you try to be perfect, and you think you have to be perfect, you're gonna get really, really down on yourself. But the moment where, let's say something's out of your control and you find yourself at McDonald's and you have to eat McDonald's for whatever meal, maybe you're traveling or you're with your daughter or something like that.
It's going to be Chinese food over McDonald's every
Chinese
time.
food, all right. Whatever it may be, you have that one meal
Yeah.
and you're like, well, I just had way too much General Gao's chicken and too many spare ribs, and it was a caloric disaster. So screw it. Like, we're off the diet. I blew it. But if you have the mentality that you only have to stay on point, dialed in 80, maybe 90% of the time, gives yourself some flexibility. And as long as you just get right back on track the very next meal, one meal really isn't going to do anything bad. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. I'm a big fan of the 80-20 rule when it comes to that great grandparent outer perimeter of the grocery store. And you mentioned bread. Not all bread is evil. Look for the fiber content in your bread. If it's Wonder Bread, white bread, probably not so good. I don't think there's any fiber in that. But if you have some Ezekiel bread or whole grain bread, or there's one of the Dave's Killer Breads has like 4 or 5 grams of fiber per slice, which is good. And it's tasty. It doesn't taste like cardboard.
Yeah.
That's another option. So just didn't want to let the whole bread thing get away. Not all bread's created equal. Bread is not inherently evil. Look for bread with a lot of fiber in it.
Steve, I like to tell my students at the studio that, our bodies, when we're working out, exercising, our bodies are really meant to be celebrated for what we can do, not necessarily punished for the shitty food we ate last night, right? But I really love that approach. Like, I work really hard when I'm exercising so that I know that if you put a bag of Cape Cod potato chips in front of me, it's okay. And I don't have to like beat myself up with food guilt and work harder tomorrow because I already did the work and I'm sustainable. I'm 80-20. I'm in this flow. I'm in this lifestyle of, aspiring to stay healthy, for myself and the people around me. Yeah.
Cape Cod chips making me hungry. I don't know
That's
if we
the
have
one.
those out here. We do have different kettle chips out here, but Cape Cod.
I got a question, Steve, about your online platform and about accountability, because I think a lot of people struggle with motivation, self-motivation, that intrinsic desire to actually do it. I think it helps if you have, family and people who rely on you. How do you personally stay connected to your clients so there's a level of accountability? For example, if you came to see me, you're at a place with a bunch of people and I'm there. So we're kind of accountable, to try a certain way. Like, how do you connect with your people?
When my guys first sign on, the very first thing that I tell every single one is the guys who do the best with me are the ones who are communicating with me the most. You're not guaranteed results. You don't just get results by, signing up for my program, paying me money, and, parting ways, giving you some workouts. So I'm pretty proactive when it comes to communication with my clients. I reach out to them in the middle of the week to make sure everything is going well. It's the midweek kind of informal check-in. Then every single Friday, we do a proper check-in form. They fill out a form, they record their stats, but more importantly, they plan out the week ahead. What days you're working out, what day you're going to the grocery store, what times are you working out? Are there any specific issues that you are facing? And then I respond to every single client who comes in. It basically takes up all day on Friday, but it's part of being an online coach. If guys do not fill that out, then I reach out to them. Say, hey man, didn't get a check-in form from you. That's all right. Sometimes you get busy. Can I count on you to fill one out for me next week? Usually they're like, oh man, I forgot. Yeah, I got busy. No problem. Everything's good, by the way. Or yeah, I didn't fill one out, but I do have this one question. I'll help them. If they don't fill it in for 2 weeks in a row, they're going to hear from me. They're either going to get a text or a phone call to make sure that they stay on track. So I keep them accountable through communication, text check-in in the middle of the week, form check-in at the end of the week. And if they don't complete that, then there's going to be another level where they hear from me to make sure everything's okay and keep them on track.
Yeah.
Billy, can I channel you for this next question?
Yeah.
So channeling my best Billy. How do you make sure that people are doing the right exercises in the right form over the online platform. I know that's something that Billy, that the reason I say I'm channeling you is because with yoga, that's something that I've heard you talk about. So I'm curious, how can people get that part from you?
Yeah, so that is like the one advantage or one of the main advantage of working with someone in person. You have someone standing over you, making sure that you're doing your row properly. So for every exercise, since I'm not with them in the room on the platform that I use for their workouts, we have pretty detailed instructions for every single exercise. And on top of that, I say if you're unsure of your form, send me a video and I'll give you some pointers. So obviously, I'm not watching every single client do every single exercise. But I say if anything's painful, if anything feels funky, or you're just not sure that you're doing it right, then send me a video of you doing it, and happy to assess your form.
Yeah, and I know that also through your social media content, you are in some ways like demonstrating the right ways to do things. So even just for people who are working with you to be subscribed to your content, they get some of those pieces by video as well.
Yeah, well, I get inspired every single time I go into the gym. Every time I look at the squat rack, there's some dude, he's wearing the wrong shoes, he has horrible form. I'm like, all right, I should make a video to teach people how to do this properly so we don't get hurt, and understand that form's important. It's about training the muscle, not your ego. Go into any commercial gym if you're a personal trainer, and just stay focused and try to focus on yourself, because there's a lot of disastrous stuff going on around there.
I mean, it comes back to like remembering your reason why, because we're not, most of us aren't training to be gold medalists or even make the platform or even make the podium. We're not looking to be like the fastest or the strongest in the world. Sometimes we get wrapped up into being, oh, I have to kind of look like this thing that I'm seeing on social media.
Yeah.
I feel fortunate because I'm older than both of you guys, and I didn't grow up with the capacity to look at YouTube and see what other people were doing and then to get depressed about how not good I was at that thing. I didn't have a comparison.
Yeah. How old are you, Billy?
I'm 51. 51 on
Okay.
Sunday. Yeah.
You don't look it. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's right.
Doing what you're doing. And yeah, when you were coming, did you start off with weight training?
I started off with yoga because I had a
Yoga.
failed back surgery. Yeah, back in 2007. I had this massive sciatic pain down my leg. And I was never an athlete. I was actually a musician with Jarrett back in the day.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, so Steve knows that little connection here. So Steve knows that I would play music. Billy was the bassist of a band that I played with for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
what was the band called? I probably remember it.
Cure for Static was our band. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
remember
Cure for Static.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the post for that on Facebook. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's how you guys knew each other.
So as a typical like uninformed human being, when I was 30 years old, I went to the doctor who held up my MRI and said, well, you're screwed. You have no choice. You should have back surgery.
Oh, wow.
So, there's a guy sitting with a lab coat with a bunch of degrees behind him. And I put all my faith in this thing. And it was not a successful back surgery. I had 3 herniated discs and I have chronic sciatic pain, chronic nerve pain in my left calf. Yeah. But here's the thing. Nobody ever told me, surgery is an option, maybe further on down the line. But if you tried to, strengthen your core and strengthen your glutes and maybe get a little bit more flexibility and, maybe try like a chiropractor or massage or, red underwear for your root chakra, or try like a million different things before they cut you open, before you have to go that route of surgery. My whole foundation of why I do it, I started with yoga, and I'm all about like quality of life. I like to ride motorcycles and walk my dog and do things that it takes like a fit body to have. Whether you're, whether you're a dad running around the playground or a little old lady who wants to squat down in the garden or to play with your grandkids, like that functional strength, things you talk about on your platform.
Yeah. So I'm not training bodybuilders. Most of the guys I work with, they just want to be fit. They want to be healthy. They want to be functional now, but also functional years down the line, and doesn't require as much in the context of complexity as you would think. You really only need to get good at 10, maybe 15 exercises, do moderate amount of weight. You don't have to do Ronnie Coleman weight. You don't have to do Arnold Schwarzenegger weight. And a little bit of consistency goes a long way, and not just consistency for 3 months, 4 months, but consistency for life. If you can get to the gym 2, 3 times a week, then just focus on getting general activity throughout the week, step count, maybe a little light cardio, maybe doing some yoga or playing a sport, walking the golf course, things like that. And those are going to be things that you're going to be really, really glad that you did in your 40s and 50s when you are 80 years old.
Yeah, it seems really easy, I think, for a lot of people to get overwhelmed with all of the things you could possibly do and all of the foods and all of the information. But what I'm hearing you say, it's kind of simple when it comes down to it. It doesn't have to be that complex. If you move your body and you try to eat real food and don't try to assimilate into, there's one thing for everyone. You could be a carnivore, you could be a vegan, you could be an omnivore, you could run, you could swim, you could walk. There's a multitude of ways. What I'm hearing you say is it doesn't have to be, rocket surgery.
Yeah, I mean, I have certain opinions on certain diets, but here's the most important thing. I'm not going to call out any one diet. I've done that a lot on my page. But if there's a diet that maybe I don't agree with, but that's the diet for you to get you to a healthy weight, and that's the only thing that works, and maybe it improves your blood lipids from where they were, your body fat percentage gets lower. It's all about finding what works for you that you could stick to in the long term, that you don't find overly restrictive. And the other thing is, yeah, all this stuff does seem simple on paper, and it is, but you do have to make it a priority. And here's what I mean by that. Workouts don't just magically happen. Our schedules are all over the place now. We're crazy. We're doing podcasts. You're working with clients. You're working with your family. One of the best tools that's right on your phone is not a fitness app. It's not a workout app. It's not a calorie tracking app. It's the Google Calendar. Got to get those workouts planned out ahead of time, the day and the time, and maybe have a backup day and a backup time to make them happen. 40 minutes, maybe 60 minutes if you got the time, 3 times a week. It's going to go a long way. So take part of your Sunday, map out your week. You're going to be a lot more likely to get it in.
That's a nice little nugget of wisdom there. That the calendar is the thing that makes sure that it happens. I like that.
Yeah, you got to treat it like an appointment. You wouldn't miss a doctor's appointment. Treat your workout just like a doctor's appointment. Just not the crooked back doctor that Billy went to.
Right, right. So in addition to getting regular exercise and eating mindfully, I heard you say that sleep is a really important other element that isn't always talked about. And I remember hearing a piece of information that we can go significantly longer not eating or drinking before dying than if we were to not sleep. Like not sleeping for a small amount of days in a row. Like first, obviously, there's the delirium, but you die well before you would starve from sleep starvation, essentially. So that just, goes to show how important sleep is for literally if there are two things that charge our battery, it's probably sleep first and, nutrition, right? So I wonder if you can say a little bit more about the importance of sleep or kind of anything that any tips you can give.
Yeah. So there's actually just a story. I read a couple paragraphs, maybe saw a video on it, but there was just a streamer who died from lack of sleep.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. I guess he was working with two other guys. They were kind of bullying him and keeping him awake. It's part of a premise of a video, and he ended up dying. His heart stopped. I don't know how long he was up nonstop, but it's a weird thing. So yeah, you can die from lack of sleep. That thing is rare, but the two stats that move the needle the most for me are these ones right here. So if you get a bad night of sleep, people who get, I think it's under 6 hours or under 5 hours, which a lot of guys do. They don't prioritize their sleep enough. They don't have good sleep hygiene. On average, you're going to eat an extra I think it's 350 calories per day without even thinking of it. And that's just due to the stress that comes with it. You're just going to be a lot more likely to snack and eat an extra 350 calories per day. Forget the exact number. It's between 300 and 350. So you're going to eat more without even thinking about it. That adds up. Usually it's not going to be an extra 350 calories of salad. You know, it's going to be that cookie that you had when you're stressed because you didn't sleep well. You know, that feeling when you have to wake up early for a flight, you're up at like 4:30 in the morning for a 7 o'clock flight, whatever. What do you want when you're walking through that airport? You're like, oh, that Egg McMuffin looks amazing. I don't usually eat Egg McMuffins in the hash brown, but looks extra good today. That's kind of how that works. And then the other stat that's also interesting, if you're low on sleep, even if you are in a position where you're losing weight, we call that the calorie deficit. You're taking in fewer calories than you're burning. That's requirement for weight loss. If you are underslept, a greater percentage of the weight that you lose is going to come from lean tissue, like muscle, versus fat. So you can be doing everything right. You can be exercising, getting enough steps, you're controlling your calories, but if you're underslept, you're going to lose muscle, which is the last thing that we want. As we get older, especially, we want to hold on to muscle for dear life. When you're losing weight, you want the majority of it to come from muscle mass. And if you're underslept, you're going to keep the fat, and you want the majority of the weight you lose to come from fat. You want to maintain as much muscle as possible. And if you're underslept, the opposite happens. You don't lose fat, you lose muscle, and you're going to be wondering, why is my metabolism shot? Why do I not look the way that I want to look? Why is this not working? So all this comes down to getting more sleep. It's going to be easier to control your calories. It's going to be easier to lose fat. And then on top of that, you're going to be a lot less likely to miss your workouts and just perform better cognitively every single day.
Steve, I have a question about that concept and then incorporating scales. Because as you mentioned, and I wonder, are we being restricted because of the phrase weight loss? Would it be more effective if it was actually called fat loss? Because you can lose the weight of bone or water or muscle, right? You don't necessarily, it's actually, people need to know what you were actually losing. For example, I could take a hot Pilates class and lose 2 pounds in an hour, and then I come out and I rehydrate and I'm right back to normal. So if you look at if you fixate maybe on the number on the scale, that can maybe lead you in the wrong direction.
It can. The scale is an important tool, but it's one of my least favorite tools because it drives a lot of people insane just because they don't know the difference between weight loss and fat loss. This happened to me a couple months and I kind of did an experiment on myself. I wanted to see how much I weighed when I first woke up versus how much I weighed just a few hours later. So I first woke up, got on the scale, I think it was 155 pounds. A couple hours later, after having a bowl of oatmeal, which I have every single day, and drinking a big bottle of water, the weight had gone up by about 5 pounds. It was like over 160 pounds. And that wasn't because I gained 5 pounds of fat. So if you weigh yourself on a Monday morning, that's a good way to drive yourself insane, thinking that everything that you're doing isn't working and it's not worth it. So yes, it is very important to know the difference between fat loss and fat gain and weight loss and weight gain, because this can be the difference between losing weight and gaining weight, but fat loss happens over time. So that being said, the scale is a valid tool if you use it the right way. And the right way is this. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but it's going to give you the most accurate picture. It's
just really quick for listeners. When Steve said this, he held up his water bottle. So we're talking water. Yep.
Water bottle. Oh, sorry. Got audio. Yeah. I don't understand podcast. All right.
We hardly do. No, we're learning.
So the best way to weigh yourself, every single morning, same time of day, after you've gone to the bathroom under the same conditions. And then you take the 7-day average, because oftentimes how you eat on the weekend is going to be a little bit different than how you eat during the week. So take the 7-day average and don't pay much attention to those small acute fluctuations. It can go up, it can go down. Look more for long-term trends over time, and that's going to give you the most accurate picture. It can drive you insane if you think that you failed your diet because you gained 5 pounds because you had one meal with some extra carbs and maybe some extra salt, followed by a giant bottle of water. And then a better indicator of overall health is going to be your body fat percentage, because that is going to factor in how much muscle you're maintaining and how much fat you're losing. And you can get a scale that will estimate it for you. You can get them pretty cheaply. You can get them for like 20, 25 bucks on Amazon. Anything that tells you, take it with a grain of salt, because there are definitely limitations to how accurate those things are. If you really want to know what your actual body fat percentage is, it may be worth it to get what's called a DEXA scan. You don't have to do this every single week or even every month, but every few months you can get one done. You go into a facility, it costs like 50 bucks, and it's kind of like an MRI, and that's kind of the gold standard for truly assessing your body composition.
So I really like the idea of like measure the trend, right? Like that's, taking the average, that's helpful to think about as well. So it's, again, to avoid going crazy over those fluctuations. All right, I got a selfish question for you.
Yeah.
So for people that don't have tons of time to dedicate to exercise, not to say that they can't make the time, right? As you said, you have to prioritize it. But for those who find themselves feeling like they maybe don't have a lot of time, do you have any strategies to get daily exercise that are either impactful but shorter amount of time, or that can be done simultaneous to other activities that one might do in their day?
Yeah. So exercise, when it comes down to it, when you look at the total amount of calories that you burn throughout the day, exercise is overrated. Exercise is the worst way to lose weight. I know that sounds crazy, but it's only a small percentage of what we call the total daily energy expenditure. A bigger percentage of that is going to be just your day-to-day movement, your step count, things like that. So all this to say, look for any excuse to move that you can. If you have a standing desk, they even have treadmill desks where you can just get in steps while you're working. You can get low impact steps while you're walking, get steps while you're brushing your teeth. You can get steps while you are on
Podcasting.
Yeah, podcasting, any excuse you can get 10 minutes of walking is going to make a big difference. So if you get an hour for lunch, that's awesome. If you get an hour for lunch, spend 30 minutes eating, 30 minutes walking. It's going to help regulate your blood sugar, help get some extra movement throughout the day. After every single meal, try to get about 10 minutes of walking. Just look for opportunities to get in any extra movement. It doesn't have to be what you would consider a workout or a HIIT session or anything like that. You don't even have to get sweaty. As much movement as you can get it, because that adds up.
Cool.
I read a really cool book not too long ago. It was called The Anthropology of Exercise, and I forget the name of the author. We'll put it in the comments. But it was about exercise is only really required these days because of our lackadaisical life. Like if we took a treadmill 1,000 years ago into the jungle and said, here's a treadmill for you to exercise, like they would never burn the calories on that because they had to run away from predators and build a hut and carry stones and all of these things. So only because we sit a lot. So it kind of supports what you're saying, like movement is the key. Like we're meant to move, natural steps, doing things, pushing a stroller. It doesn't have to be, a HIIT work like I do, or you don't have to go to the gym 7 days a week, right? Movement and action.
Take the stairs. Well, we talked about how much exercise people are getting. The average step count's really low as well. The average step count's like 3,000 or 3,500 steps per day, which equates to just like 30 minutes of walking, somewhere around there. You have 24 hours a day and you're only moving for 30 minutes of it. That's not good. That's not good at all. So the good news is you do not need 20,000 steps a day. You probably don't even need 10, but getting north of at the very least 5,000 steps, that's going to be better than 3,000. But I've heard a lot of people say get above 7,500. If you're between 7,500, said 10,000 steps a day, it takes a little bit of effort, but it's definitely worth it. You can get a lot of benefits for that.
I think
Yeah.
this is where technology can kind of come into play too. Maybe with a little gamification.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of those things, but I do have an aura ring, and if I'm sitting around being lazy, like it will remind you, hey, is it time to stretch your legs a little bit, right? So to gamify it, to like, it'll even give me a sleep score. So if I don't sleep really well, I'll get like a low number, and I'll wake up in the morning and be like, well, fuck that, I got to beat that. I get a little
Yeah.
competitive with myself, I want to make it darker, I want to make it colder, I want to make it, you know. Are you a big believer in like Apple Watches, Aura Rings technology to support it?
Yeah, I have a Whoop. I love it. It's just
Whoop.
like the Oura Ring. And I had a travel day the other day where it was crazy. We don't have to get into all the details, but I had two layovers. I did a lot of sitting, and I got home and I noticed my step count was really low. It wasn't particularly late, but it wasn't like 11 o'clock at night. I was like, oh, my step count's really low. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna walk for 15, 20 minutes, throw on the earbuds, throw on some music. And all it took to get from a really low amount of steps to something that would put me closer to what I would shoot for every single day took 15 minutes. And I
Yeah.
felt a lot better gamifying it. So anytime I can gamify anything, the better. I learned how to gamify the weight room by trying to get a few more reps here or there, add a little bit more weight here or there. You're tracking that. That's good. Tracking your steps, tracking your other metrics, your resting heart rate or VO2 max, things like that. The more you could gamify it, the more I can treat it like it's a video game, the more I'm on board.
Yep. Yep. Does that resonate with you, Jarrett? You gonna maybe get something like that?
Well, yeah, so I do have I get a sleep score, but I really feel like there was a time in my life where I had like the Fitbit 2 or whatever. It was like one of the really basic ones that didn't even have animations. But I did just notice that like, all right, I'm gonna shoot for this amount of steps. Oh, I'm not there. I better move, right? So I feel like that should be a request for some either future gift or a gift to myself soon. The other thing that's really resonating with me that I'm going to take away from this is like, I have when I see clients, I have 10 to 15 minutes typically between clients.
Yeah.
And like, why not stand up and move around? Or not even why not? Like, so, sometimes I have to do a little bit of paperwork or catching up on emails, but like, I imagine that if I made, again, a rule for myself of you have to be in motion for 5 minutes at least after every client, that feels
Yeah.
sustainable. And again, as you said, like it adding up, that's a helpful frame of reference for me.
Yeah, think of how many clients you have in a day, multiply that by five. That's an extra 30, 40, 50 minutes of
Yeah.
work. Or you can do the thing, Jarrett, where you just have your client sit in a chair in the middle of the room and you just do laps around them.
Yeah.
The whole time.
I do a lot of telehealth, so laps would be weird. I'd be out of view and then back into view and out of view.
All right, maybe
No,
that
but
won't.
I hear you though. I hear you. All
Half the
right.
time, yeah.
Can I do another selfish question?
Of course.
All right, I got you as a resource here. I want to make good use.
Yeah,
So,
man.
uh, for people who love to snack, this guy, what are some healthy but tasty replacement snacks for the ones that are easy to overconsume or tend to, pack on pounds? I know also
Yeah.
like time of day that you snack is important too, but like just like in terms of, I do well with replacements rather than just saying you got to take this out of your diet. Like, what can I
Yeah.
replace it with?
So if you're trying to lose fat, there's no magic snack that you can have that's going to be a free pass. So you always have to be mindful of your total calories for the day. But planning them in is great. And there's some great snacks that are higher in protein, lower in calories that taste really, really good. So you never heard of anyone becoming obese or having a weight problem because they're consuming fruit. Anyone who vilifies fruit, I'm not listening to anything else that they say because fruit is associated with weight loss, longevity. It's got fiber. So any type of fruit you want. It's not like,
Yeah.
oh, have fruit, but watch out for grapes or watch out for banana. They're going to make you obese. That's simply not the case.
Just don't juice it. Do you agree? Don't juice it.
Oh yeah, well, juice it's
If you
stripped of
remove the fiber.
fiber. Yeah, there's no fiber, and the calories are way higher. So,
Mm.
yeah, juice and fruit are not equal. But try having more than two apples. It's not going to happen. That's
No.
only like 200 calories. So, fruit's always a good option. But go to the grocery store. If you like Greek yogurt, it is a buyer's market, man. And there are delicious ones. There are flavored ones. You don't have to get the flavored ones, but that's my go-to. That's always my recommendation right now. I got the Oikos Pro in my fridge. Chobani makes a great one. That even the store brand is good. Awesome protein to calorie ratio. If you don't want flavored for whatever reason, Faya is an awesome brand. If you want to get crazy and get the Icelandic version, you can get some skyr, which is basically the same thing as Greek yogurt. You can put some honey in there. You can throw some berries in there. I'm a big fan of cottage cheese as well. I say be cautious if you're having nuts and seeds, just because the calories can add up a little quickly. Nothing inherently wrong with those, but be cautious. But my favorite fruit, Greek yogurt, anything that's low in calories, high in fiber, or high in protein, or both, is going to be a good option.
Cool. Yeah, that gives me some things to work towards.
Yeah, man.
There's also certain foods too that have a higher level of satiability. What
Yeah.
if you eat red meat, you're gonna feel much fuller than if you
Yeah.
ate, pasta. I
Protein.
can eat a whole large pizza, gone.
Yeah. And you can have a piece of steak that's like 500, 600 calories with like 70 grams of protein, and you're not going to want anything for the next 3, 4 hours. So anything that has a lot of protein and or fiber, or you combine protein with fiber, that's the magic sauce right there. Yeah.
Nice. Do you have any particular like level up moments from your own life where that you feel proud of, or maybe times where you have kind of witnessed one of your clients leveling up moments, or their journey that you can speak about?
Oh man, I could talk about a ton of clients, which is awesome. But here's the story I always tell, and it's just my life lesson. It validated everything that about success and just achieving goals. And it's comes down to this. You can get it all mapped out on paper, your perfect roadmap for whatever goal you want to accomplish. But even if it's meaningful, even if it's the perfect strategy, there's going to be an element of doing things you don't feel like doing, especially when you don't feel like doing them. So that's a skill that you have to get really, really, really good at. So case in point, the life lesson. I had a strategy. This was before I had any type of following on social media. I had just got on TikTok. I was struggling on TikTok. 200 followers, and the advice I got, I hired a coach, hired a mentor, and their advice was to post on TikTok 2 times a day, no matter what. They're like the videos you're posting, they're pretty good. If you just keep posting, you'll get some followers, you'll get some traction. So I said, all right, this is what I'm going to do no matter what, no exceptions whatsoever. Posting twice a day. Did it for a week, did it for 2 weeks, great. Did it for 3 weeks, great. No traction. I don't remember exactly how far into it was, but it was deep, and still nothing was happening. But I trusted the process. There was this one Sunday where it was Sunday night. I had posted 13 out of the 14 times I was committed to post. I had just played 18 holes of golf. It was California. I'm terrible at golf, so I was exhausted. It was a hot day. Last thing I wanted to do was not just post a video, but I had to write a video, I had to shoot a video, I had to edit a video, then I had to post it. And this was at like 5, 6 o'clock on a Sunday after being exhausted. But I said, all right, I committed to this. I'm going to do it no matter what. So I shot something, and it wasn't anything spectacular. It was just a workout video. Probably took 30 minutes, 45 minutes to shoot it with nothing left in the tank. But I posted it, forgot about it. It wasn't my best material in my opinion, but I went 14 for 14 that week on posts. I was able to check the box, and I woke up the next morning with a whole bunch of red alerts on my TikTok. My video somehow magically went hyper viral. It got over 600,000 views in about 12 hours, 5,000 new followers. I went from 200 followers to 5,200 followers in less than 12 hours. And from there, I don't know how the algorithm works, but I got some momentum and I just started getting new followers every single day, and they started pushing out my videos, and it changed my life. But had I not just done that thing I didn't feel like doing when I didn't feel like doing it, I could be in a totally different position right now. So that's a lesson. Have a game plan. Understand that it's not going to be easy. You're not always going to be motivated, but got to get used to doing things you don't feel like doing, especially when you don't feel like doing it. When you decided that you're not going to do it anyways. And more often than not, especially long term, the universe is going to reward you.
Right on. Dadbod_Steve on Instagram. That's your handle. Where else can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, just like you said. You could find me on Facebook as it's my name on Facebook, Steve Lutsk. Give me a follow on there. It says
Lutsk.
Lutsk.
We'll put it in the show notes too. But yeah, what else you got? Where do you want people to go?
TikTok DadBodSteve, YouTube DadBodSteve, DadBodSteve.com. I got a free workout program for you, so check that out. If you don't know where to start, go to DadBodSteve.com. Got you covered with some free goodies.
Right on. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, follow Steve to lose your dad bod.
Thank you, Jarrett. Thank you, Billy. This was awesome. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah.
All right, till next time.
All right.
That's it for today, you guys. Make sure to follow us. You can find us on all the major platforms. If you really like what you heard, maybe share it with a friend, share it with a buddy, maybe share it with an enemy, because we all need a little bit of love. We're going to level up together. See you next time.